Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Here is an example of Russian incompatibility with our values, with the Western values, with the Brussels and Washington values. They are going to attack the gender agenda, the Russians I'm talking, and they will try to amend a law that allowed Russians to change their gender on their ID papers. They were allowed to do this. I have this article coming from Russia Today. The Russians were allowed to do this, and now they want to change it back, that you can't change your gender on your IDs anymore. So that runs against our values in the West, in the free world. So let's see what's going on here. This article comes from Russia Today, and Russia to amend law allowing gender changes on ID papers. An ability to change gender in a passport goes against national, and I'm quoting, constitutional priorities, end quote, the Justice Minister has said. The Russian Ministry of Justice is to review national legislation in order to ban the changing of one's gender in passports and other ID documents. Ministry Chief Konstantin Chuishenko told TASS on Monday. The existing practice of gender changing on documents creates legal collisions and doesn't fit Russia's, and I'm quoting, basic principles, end quote, in national policy or, and I'm quoting, constitutional priorities, end quote, he explained. Russia permitted gender change in 1997. That's when they used to be part of our values, Western values, European values. In 2018, a mechanism was created that allowed a person to change their gender at will in any identity papers. Currently, one has to provide a simple clearance certificate from a medical institution to request such a document change. According to Chuishenko, a person does not need to go through gender reassignment. So now that these guys provided more freedom than the Western values provided in Europe and in the United States of America, I guess, Australia. So according to Chuishenko, a person does not need to go through gender reassignment surgery to legally change gender in any documents. So you just say you are, and that's it. Wow, I think we're way ahead of the policies here. Between 2018 and 2022, a total of 2,700 cases of legal gender changes were registered in Russia. Now that's freedom. According to Chuishenko, in 190 cases, persons who'd legally changed their gender then officially registered a marriage in Russia. He added, Russian legislation does not allow same-sex marriages. Oh my. See? Where freedom is no more. And I'm quoting, we thus see the following. A person who changed their gender in a passport but remained physically the same can register marriage, adopt children, end quote. The minister told TASS in an interview, adding that legal conflicts also arise over the age at which such a person should be entitled to retirement benefits or over what type of paternity facility they should be placed in if sentenced for an offense. Because women, they, I think, retire earlier than men, I think. That's how it used to be. So that's why they talk about the conflict. And I'm quoting, we are dealing now just with some legal collisions linked to gender change, but in conformity with the current conceptual policy documents and constitutional priorities, end quote, Chuishenko said. He did not elaborate on when proposed changes to the legislation would be prepared by his ministry or when they might come into force. This last long sentence is an important one, so please pay attention here. Constitutional amendments passed in 2020 after a nationwide referendum included a specific clause committing the state to protecting, and I'm quoting, the institution of marriage as a union of a man and a woman, end quote. Now, that is not inclusive. That is wrong, but hey, it was a referendum. I know that was skewed by the Russians. So this is, my friends, how the Russians depart from Western values, and they descend in tyranny and darkness. Okay, and that's the way it is. They cannot be accepted in our world. So as I always say, I think the best way to solve certain things is not really through important things. It's not really through elected representatives, who, they get all kind of campaign donations and they are this. But I think through direct democracy in certain issues, important issues, I would say, related to the economy, sovereignty, borders, things like this, education, even the campaign donations and all that, or support, however we want to call it. So these are the Russians, the evil Russians, my friends. That's why I think the Ukrainians are protecting us from this kind of invasion of Russian, evilness. Whatever, man. My thing is, each country is allowed to live its own, take its own course, and have its own culture, traditions, and they should be the makers of their own destiny. The problem is like I go to buy groceries from a store, and when I go over there, they tell me that I have to say that, I can buy from them only if I tell them that I agree with this policy or that policy, political policy or economic policy, and I'm just a customer. I'm going to go in, I'm going to get involved in a voluntary transaction. You have the product, I have the money. But they ask me, no, in order for you to engage in a free transaction, you have to say that you agree with this, you disagree with that, you condemn that, you don't deny that, you have to show me this. The same is, for instance, with the European Union, the so-called European values. European values are not dictated or should not be dictated by Brussels, for instance, because Europe is formed from different cultures, different countries, different traditions. Most of them are the same, trend, how do you want to call it, Indo-Europeans, speaking most of them, countries. I mean, we ignore, what was that, Hungary and, was that Finland, I think they are Finno-Ugric languages, not Indo-Europeans, but it doesn't matter. They have basically the same, Christianity is the prevalent religion over there. Used to be, I don't know, it still is right now, but anyway, they have the same values for the most part, but these guys are just trying to impose something, these guys, and our values. Why do you have to touch all these values that are really not important for the well-being of the so-called European Union? Because if you try to impose that, then you can come and impose me here how I'm gonna set my room. And we all have to set it the way you want it. I can't set it the way I want it. And is this my room or is not my room? Let's start with this one. I'm just doing business with you. This transaction, voluntary transaction. So anyway, the Russians don't want to agree with that, and they did for a while. As you saw in 1997, they were very European. Now they're not very European. This Putin is a bad dude, obviously. So we'll see. Maybe a lot of people will leave Russia, and I'm guessing that a lot of people will move into Russia at one point, when I think things here will not fit people's preferences and values, and they will be discriminated against. They will probably move somewhere else. Where do you move? To Europe? It's even worse over there. You want to move to the evil Russian, or somewhere where you find something as bad as you are, as a person that identifies with you. And there might be some extreme people here that might just go to Russia and say, you know what, I can't live here with these guys. They're too open, too free for me. So I need to infringe a little bit of my freedom and go over there in the tyrannical Russia. that will happen, and that as things go more free here, you know what I mean, and more tolerant, other people will feel that that's gonna crash them, that they can't live with so much freedom, therefore they're gonna get out. So anyway, one thing is this, I don't really get it. Let's say I'm a country that has no, I don't see, let's say there are countries that do not allow their citizens, some citizens, to change on the papers, you know, their gender. But let's say an American that, let's say, looks in a certain way, has its different, you know, gender over there, and shows up, let's say, in another country, and the country doesn't recognize that, and he's gonna be called as this guy sees fit, and he's not gonna honor what's over there when he looks, and you know what I mean? What's gonna happen then? Who has the upper hand? The country you're going in, or the guy who imposes his thing from his country? Because let's say I identify as a woman, I do maybe a few changes or whatever I do, I change my ID, I showed up, let's say, in Iran, and I go over there and they call me Mr. And I feel offended and all that for the reasons I already mentioned. What am I supposed to do? What are they supposed to do? Should they follow my thing, or I should follow their thing? Well, thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.